So I feel bad, because I empathize with somebody who is scared to come forward, won't be honest about it. But I also feel like at a certain point, if you know what you're doing is destroying something, someone, society, and you're like, well, I'm not going to stick my neck out. I mean, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, and there's no other option. It's a choiceless choice to do this work because people are not going to speak on the record. Nobody will ever do that. I mean,
some people
do. Once in a while. I mean, you had the Eric Cochran, our colleague at Pinterest, was making a ton of money, and he gave it all up. And he said, I don't, what am I going to do but eat ashes to ashes one day and go to the grave? And I'm young and want to do this. I hope to find more of these people. We have a tip line, Veritas, that's Veritas, tips at protonmail.com for those of you watching, if you want to be brave and do something. And
yeah.
So there's a lot of options.
Man, I worked, so this, I worked for a Disney company. It was ABC Univision. And it's interesting, you said something that reminded me of what they told me, side with the audience.
Yeah.
The goal of this news outlet, Fusion, as I was told multiple times by the president, was to just say things that the audience would agree with. Mm-hmm. And so I asked him, if there is a story that's factually true but would upset our audience, we wouldn't report it. And he said, I think that's fair. How does that translate? Let's say you have raw footage of a Proud Boy walking down the street, and then Antifa runs up to him and punches him in the face. The Proud Boy gets up and punches back. The full context would offend our audience. We don't report it. The shorter context would not offend our audience. The Proud Boy hitting Antifa. That's the story that complements their worldview. The Proud Boys are bad. So ultimately, I never blew the whistle or anything while I was there, but I refused to play ball with them. I ended up leaving and then basically explaining everything about what these companies do, how they do it, how the media manipulates. And I think too many people have said to me things like, oh, well, this is really funny to me. They say, yeah, but you could support yourself, but you weren't worried about what you were like you were going to lose your job. You didn't care. Like I cared about all that stuff. I was worried that coming out, I did a video that Sargon of Akkad put on his channel where it was me breaking down 4 different ways, I think it was 4, that the media was manipulating everybody. Mm-hmm. And I knew, I'm going to put out a video on this, this YouTuber, anti-feminist guy's channel. They're not going to hire me. This is it. I'm going to say this right now, let everybody know, and this is how we're going to get it out because these companies won't let me say it. And then I better start something on my own because I'm never going back to these companies. I had actually gone to a bunch of these. I'm not going to name them, but you know who they are, these big New York digital firms. And some of them were like, you name your job, you name your salary. And I said, I am not going to I saw some of the people working there. I'm not going to get myself in a situation like that anymore. And so I decided just build it up from the ground up.
You're an entrepreneur, and that's very important what you're doing. It's like you have to be a journalist and a businessman at the same time. I mean, it's very important. You are an entrepreneur. I'm at your place right now, and it's amazing what you are building and what you've built. And what I've learned in my career is that when I started, I was in a garage with nothing but a mic and a laptop. And I realized, okay, in order to make videos, I have to do something else and I have to be the chairman of a company, and I don't settle litigation. I have to raise millions of dollars. So in order to do what I think is right, in order to not compromise or ever sell out, I haven't sold out to anyone. I'm not answering to anybody. I have no advertisers. No one can boycott me. I had to build a company and learn how to be a CEO in order to do my passion, which was investigative reporting. Otherwise, I can't do investigative reporting because I have to be owned by somebody.
Right.
And that's what you're doing, and more power to you.
Well, so the reason I tell this story is just because it's my own personal experience with I'm not going to pretend it's as brave as some of the whistleblowers you've seen, because my contract expired. I was in golden handcuffs. I couldn't do anything. I was straight up told by the president I wasn't allowed to participate in a presidential event because of my race, because I looked too white.
Wow.
I was told that, and I was actually contemplating, like, do I sue them for this? And I was like, I don't want to get involved in any of that. I want to carry on. But what I'm trying to get to is, when you say be brave, that's exactly it. A lot of people seem to think that they're like, they look to me, they look to successful people and they say, you're the exception. I know that if I strike out on my own, that I'm going to fail. No, you have to just try. You've got to throw it out there. So I'll tell you this, man, you have 2 choices. If you work for one of these companies and you know they're doing something wrong and you say, well, I'm not getting my hands dirty or taking my neck out, then how are you not a part of the problem? You are. If you see something and you decide, I am going to stand up and let people know what they're doing, you are solving that problem.
Yes.
But there are too many people who are more than happy to just let the problem carry on.
Well, that's true, and I think you got to be a leader in this life. You got to take risks. Courage is the virtue that sustains all others. I don't think you need to have 100,000 people or 1 million. You just need a few. You need like a couple dozen. Again, going back to this example of Eric Cochran, you meet this guy. He works with us. He runs our.
This is the Pinterest
whistleblower, and it was just brings tears to your eyes to hear him talk about. He left a salary, very high salary, and he describes why he did it. And he says a lot of people go through life and they just want the material things in life, and that's not what life is about. And you get a lot more fulfillment in standing up for something that is right. And I don't think I could ever do anything but Project Veritas. I've tried to live a normal life. I've tried to go to law school and do all these things. And I just feel so passionately that if you stand up for what's right and moral and decent, like you have done in your career, good things will happen. And I don't know what the alternative is.
Do you know the story of how the Nobel Peace Prize or the Nobel Prize came about?
No.
It's the dude Nobel, inventor of dynamite. Someone at a news outlet, I guess, accidentally published his obituary early. And I'm probably flubbing some of the details because I'm not pulling it off a website or anything. But apparently they accidentally published his obituary early. It happens. And they called him the Merchant of Death. And so he apparently got panicked. It was like, is that my legacy? So he decided to create something to be, to be better, the Nobel Prize and all the in chemistry, engineering, mathematics, Peace Prize, etc. I think people, it's maybe it's something that not all people have, this feeling about what you're going to leave behind. But I'm curious if these people at Google who refuse to speak up, the people who are there, like, look, clearly not everybody at Google is a zealot who wants to manipulate people and control the world, thinking their ideology is legit. This guy clearly doesn't. He thinks they're playing God and there's something wrong with what they're doing. It's unethical. But why wouldn't he just actually come out and give that statement, put out that video and say, hey guys, this is happening? Why? Like, what do people not care about the legacy that they leave behind?
I think people are afraid. I think that the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. But the biggest question that I get asked is, what can I do? Do you get asked that question?
All the time.
It's like, what can I do? What can I do? And Dennis Prager says there's 3 types of people in the world. There's people who fight, people who support those who fight, maybe financially, and those who do nothing. So you could certainly financially support those who do things, or you can do things, or you can do nothing. Those are the 3 options. The biggest question I get asked is, how can I help? How can I contribute? And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but there's this tiny fraction of people who, this guy, Zach Voorhees, another one I didn't mention at Google, algorithmic unfairness. Zach leaked the document out of Google, and he was terminated by Google. And he said, quote, "This was an act of atonement, an attempt to make my conscience clear." Very powerful. Wow. And he meant it. And he was tearing up. And, it's just, some people it's a choiceless choice. They can't do anything. And whistleblowing, which is what some of us do at Project Veritas, because a lot of people are not my employees. They're actually people who just send me stuff. It's like you're an astronaut which is let go from the spacecraft. You're not part of any organization. You're not part of Veritas. You're not part of Google. You're just out there floating out in the wind with no safety net for a higher purpose. And in the 20th century, you had Jeffrey Wigand and these sorts of whistleblowers their lives were over. All they had was 60 minutes.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, there's GoFundMe, there's a life after whistleblowing, although that's its
right,
own deal.
The GoFundMe thing.
But there's a new market for this sort of thing. It used to be in the 20th century, you'd get divorced, you'd be bankrupt, your life would be over. Most whistleblowers have reportedly said that they regretted doing it.
Wow.
They wish they could not do. They were naive. I think there's a new era. I think there's a new age. I think we're living in an era of, these are the times that try men's souls, to quote Thomas Paine. I think there's like this new movement of people that are about to do this, Tim.
Yeah.
Because you were talking last night, we're going to go to war. Okay, well, before we go to war, there's going to be whistleblowers recording everything, I think.
To quote Breitbart. War.
Yeah, yes, to quote Breitbart. Exactly.
So last night we were talking about where do we go from here? Like and you were saying, I think civil unrest, and I said, yeah, I do believe that the trajectory we're on leads to full-scale conflict of some kind. What that looks like, I don't know. And I know it's interesting, a lot of people don't like the conversation around potential civil war or anything like that, but I think people get confused about what it really means. I'm not talking about factions marching in the streets anytime soon or anything like that. But I do think that we're seeing this, and I'm gonna pause right here, and I wanted to say this as soon as we pull up this article. I got bad news for you, man. this doesn't shock anybody anymore. You know, it's like, I think it's really, really important. You're putting this stuff out, you're showing it, you're confirming it, you're proving it.
Right.
And it's at a point now where like I see this and I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
So what do we do? It's like we're hitting a wall. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if I agree completely. I think that you need to do more of it. This is like, I do these things. I used to do these things once a month. Now I'm doing them like 3 times a week. And it was, Andrew Breitbart wrote a book called Righteous Indignation, which I believe was coined by Ida Tarbell, the investigative reporter.
Good book.
Investigative reporting. There's another book called Custodians of Conscience. So we investigative reporting test and affirms what is moral and what is not moral. And that there's that Overton window where you're kind of testing where the boundaries are about, and you're setting the threshold of anger. It's hard because there's so much noise and crap. How do you break through that? Investigative reporting is the fiercest of indignation fused with the hardest of fact. So you're trying to find these facts that are outrageous to people, and it is hard. But I think it's working, Eric Spracklin. I think we're getting there. I think we just have to do more of it. I think we need, you need 100 videos, and the audience is not going to watch CNN because they can't stand it. I mean, CNN has no viewers, by the way. Nobody watches CNN.
Actually, their viewers have been going up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon right now. Tucker Carlson, of course, as you probably heard, has the highest rated cable news show in history, over 5 million in the past, like a week or two ago, massive. But around the same time, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper have been skyrocketing as well. So it's.
Well, what numbers are we talking about?
I'm talking about Anderson Cooper hitting 3 million.
3 million.
3 million, and Rachel Maddow hitting 4.
Like in one night.
We can
average over the week.
We can beat that.
Well, I'll tell you this. Across my channels, I'm getting over 100.
There you go.
And on YouTube, CNN's getting 190. So for one person,
not bad.
And then this show actually has a couple people, but compared to CNN's, I think they're on the way out. I think they're doing really well now because of the Orange Man narrative, the Trump bump, and Tucker's sort of cuts through a lot of the BS. So naturally his show does well.
But none of these companies, none of these media organizations are willing to be the tip of the spear. They're not willing to go. They don't go there. Like Vice's unique value proposition was, we go there. Imagine how broken the media is, right? Imagine how broken the news business is when your unique value proposition to your customers is, we go to the place we're reporting on. None of these people will ever have me on TV, obviously, but they'll talk about the stuff. And I think it's that idea of the tip of the spear, being in an exposed position where you're not just responding to events, but you're actually creating events. The Google thing tonight is new information into the matrix. It's like not just us talking about pre-existing information. And most media corporations, because they're commercial, that economic imperative compromises their what they do. I don't have an economic imperative. We have never generated a penny of profit, which is a pain in the ass because I have to go work 100 hours a week raising money to pay the bills. But you know what I'm saying? I think it's economics, not ideology.
Isn't there a partisan element to it?
There exists it. But Jeff Zucker, I mean, everything I've learned about the guy, I mean, he could have built Trump up, and then he's trying to tear him down. And I don't know what these companies are going to do after Trump.
So you do fundraising relentlessly, just
constantly.
Would you consider your donors to be conservative?
Many of them. Some of them. There seems to be a overlap between conservatism. I don't even know what that means anymore.
To be honest, I agree.
And reality. There seems to be because
that's the inverse Colbert.
Because CNN they just keep yammering about crap. I mean, I've been through the ringer with this New York Times and USA. They literally say the opposite. We should talk about this. The opposite of what is real. So if you just extrapolate that over everything they say, if I just aim my camera in any direction, it's going to show things that are contrary to what they show you. Is that conservative? I don't really consider myself an ideologue. I really don't. I tend to focus on the sacred cows, the organizations that these places won't talk about, because I believe in justice. I always have since I was a college student. My professors were telling me how great Stalin was, and I said, no, that's not true. So I guess I'm more of a contrarian. If the media was saying doing the inverse, my cameras would show something different, right?
I think, how about anti-establishment, in a sense?
Perhaps.
So I consider myself to be fairly anti-establishment, and that's why I'm often I find myself ragging on Democrats, because I don't like the Republicans either. But right now, with Trump, you have something very different. And so when it comes to the things that we see on CNN and MSNBC, on mainstream news outlets, these are supposed to be the news outlets that are informing everybody and being fair, and they're not. They're clearly pandering to one side and catering to one political faction in this country. So I view that as, do I care what Breitbart is doing? Why? Why would I care? Breitbart's not that big. Do I care about what the New York Times is doing? Absolutely. They're the gray lady, the paper of record.
Right.
When they're acting, a fool, I'm worried about that. Look, I get it. There's always going to be some little blog, some right-wing channel, so right-wing news outlet or something. And then I hear all of these, you see like Brian Stelter on CNN saying Fox News does this. And I'm like, yes, so what? It's one channel. They do this sometimes. They do that sometimes. What about you guys? What about ABC, NBC, CBS? All of these, Washington Post, they're all endorsing Biden. They're all, not every single one of them, but a lot of papers are endorsing a political candidate. They're putting out information. They're clearly lying about it. Like the Twitter fact check. Did you see this? When the New York Post story got censored, the Washington Post fact check put up on Twitter said Joe Biden played no role in ousting the Ukrainian prosecutor, even though he's on video saying he did.
This is what they're going to start doing now, is just saying the quite literal opposite of reality. It happened to us. I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, my point is, I view things as like the establishment is breaking the rules, and that's a problem to me. If there are people who oppose the establishment who are much smaller, who are breaking the rules, I'll bring it up when it matters, but I don't think it's that significant. Like, I understand it can be in concert with all these other channels. But anyway, that's just me kind of breaking down my point of view. As it relates to you guys have been accused of being, partisan, conservative, and going after left-wing organizations and trying to smear them or whatever. So
well, there's a lot of examples to the contrary. I mean, we went after the Republican Attorney General of New Hampshire recently because his deputy said that there was no such thing as voter ID in the state, and I confronted Gordon McDonald, who is a Republican, who works for Chris Sununu, who is a Republican. There are examples in Amy Robach, the Jeffrey Epstein video. That wasn't conservative or liberal. That was actually plotted by liberals, and suddenly the New Republic was like, is James O'Keefe legitimate now? So they actually have a headline that said that. It's like the moment I go after like the NRA, we live in a world not of angels but angles, where people don't talk about. They don't ever think that our motives are pure. There must be and not everything's political. What's going to happen, Tim, eventually is that whistleblowers are just going to trust me because I don't settle lawsuits and don't back down. And there's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40% of our sources that just bring us straight up corruption. If someone comes to me, Republicans ripping up ballots, I will air that video. I swear to God, if someone gives me a video of Republican congressmen,
do it.
I'm publishing the video. But I don't get videos of Republicans. I get a guy in Minnesota who says absentee ballot, we don't care that it's illegal.
Right.
It's the guy is saying, I don't care that it's illegal. Jeez, and the New York Times says there's no evidence. This is unsubstantiated. Well, what would it take? What is evidence? The guy's on tape. He's covered in. It's like a South Park episode. It's like Parker and Stone come up with the most outrageous video.
They're writing 2020.
Let's get some Somalis. Let's put them in a car. Let's say I'm still hustling at 2 a.m, ripping up absentee ballots, blank ballots. I break the law. It looks like a South Park episode, and the New York Times goes, "This is unsubstantiated video." So it's
his own video.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you have the incontrovertible evidence, and the New York Times says it's unsubstantiated, and the information monopolists at Facebook only cite quote unquote verified. You guys all know this. And Jeff Bezos, we speak of the Washington Post. I have a quote here. This is Jeff Bezos, maybe the biggest, most powerful company, Amazon, in the world. Quote, "Even though the Washington Post is a complexifier for me, I do not at all regret my investment. The Post is a critical institution with a critical mission. This is, quote, something I will be most proud of." I think it's very telling the CEO of Amazon thinks that his investment in some woke clickbait rag in Washington is the most important thing he will have done in his life.
Wow.
The media is more powerful than all three branches of the government of the United States.
Yep.
And that's truth.
So anyway, what I was getting to in terms of the bias accusations against you, what I really love about this was when you're publishing Google.
Yes.
Is Google a left-wing institution now? When they say that you're targeting liberal organizations or leftists, they're almost admitting
that's true.
that these big tech companies are.
They
or
are.
the newspapers are.
The Democrat media complex. I think Ritesh Lakar tonight, we're going to have more videos tomorrow, and he does say that they lean that way. And it appears to be, Tim, the case that they are partisan institutions. And some of the evidence in these tapes, you'll see one tomorrow, which it might even trigger an FEC complaint. There is a hearing next week in D.C. The Senate committee, what is it, Eric? The Senate Commerce Committee is having a hearing, and I'm sure they'll play some of this. If they're helping left-wing parties, Democrat parties in advertising on Google, that triggered an FEC violation.
I think, speaking of the Washington Post and how social media amplifies, a lot of what these journalists do, verifying them, giving them credibility. I love it when I see a verified journalist with 300 followers. Mm-hmm. Well, they're verified. They work for the news outlet. That's why it's important, I guess. And let me tell you a story. I think it may have been 2016. It's been a while now. Mm-hmm. The Washington Post published a story that insinuated, out of thin air, that Kim.com, the notorious mega upload hacker, fabricated a trove of emails or something to, I got a pair. It's been a long time since I covered the story, but they basically wrote this story claiming that he may have hacked Seth Rich's email account or tried to break into Seth Rich's email account to plant a trove of fake emails to prove, quote unquote, prove the Seth Rich conspiracy theory that the DNC staffer Seth Rich leaked emails. That's the conspiracy, I guess, to WikiLeaks. They made this whole story up, completely fabricated. So the general story was that someone in the Rich family got a mega upload email saying they signed up. And from that tidbit, this guy, Dave Weigel at the Washington Post, fabricated this whole thing. So I went on Twitter, I found his number, and I called him. And I was like, I sent him a signal message like, can you? I was very polite, very, very professional, saying, hi, my name is Tim Pool, I'm a journalist. I'm curious as to your sources to verify, blah, blah, blah. And he just was like, oh, what is this? What is this? Basically, the sum of the story. A fake story was written to smear Kim.com and people who were concerned about WikiLeaks release with no evidence. And then I think it was maybe 6 or 8 months later, they went back and changed the entire story. And you can track all of this on newsdiffs.org.
Newsdiffs.
Which I'm not sure if they exist anymore, but at the time, they showed you the difference from the original article and the article as it was changed in November. I think it was published in May, I think. It was a smear, a hit job. And then after the dust settles, in November, they go in and they change all the language without telling anybody. I've seen this so many times. And so when you have the Washington Post, for instance, that doesn't like that, and I've seen it, they endorse Joe Biden, and then they put up this false Twitter fact check. I love it. Twitter had this fake fact check up for days. Were you able to pull it up, or did you?
I'm trying to right now, but I just want to say while you're talking to me about this, the people on your show, the people watching this, there are insiders that are reaching out to our encrypted Proton mail address right now.
Already.
Like right now. My chief operations just sent me a message. James, there's people literally right now, insiders are coming to the email address.
Wow.
They're watching your show. Veritas.
We're going to get banned.
I'm going to do another ad.
Man.
Veritas tips at protonmail.com. You know that show, Cars for Kids? Do you ever hear that on the show?
Yes.
Yeah, Cars for Kids.
1877 Cars for Kids.
Yep.
Veritas tips at Proton Mail.
I like that.
James, we need a My Pillow jingle. Right now, Eric, there are insiders coming to us watching Tim Pool's show.
Cool.
Like inside these tech companies.
I feel like we're doing one of those. What are those things they used to do where they would like raise money on public access TV? And, like, the phones are ringing off the hook.
It's
Telethons.
true, yeah,
There you go.
telethons.
The Proton Mail is being inundated with whistleblowers as we speak.
Like the Live Aid concert. There are people working for tech companies watching Tim Pool's live cast right now who are emailing Project Veritas right now on the inside. Yeah, give me one of those cameras. So
we're gonna get banned.
You are changing the world and you don't even know it.
I think so. It's the goal every day to just do something.
Yes.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.